Hello students, welcome to your English class. We'll move ahead and start our discussion on homework. So these were the three things that you had to complete for homework. What we'll do is look at question number 2. So question number 2 was a long answer type question and it was supposed to be 100 to 150 words. As I mentioned earlier, it's an 8-mark question. So the way it is graded when an examiner checks this type of a question is that you get 4 marks for content and 4 marks for expression. Now what does content mean? So content is testing your understanding of the text and your ability to interpret, evaluate and respond to the themes or the issues that were raised by that story or piece. Therefore, there can't be just one correct answer. So all presentations that are logically supported by textual evidence must be considered correct. Next is expression. Expression is about how grammatically accurate your answer is. If you've used appropriate words to describe things or explain things, whether your spellings are correct, whether your answer is coherent. So it should not be it starts in one direction, goes in another direction, and ends in one direction. So relevance is how relevant it is to the actual question. So if the question is about something, but your answer is related to something completely different that's out of the question. So then that matters, and your marks can get cut because of that. And then there is clarity. So whether you're repeating the same thing again and again, or you're clear of which points exactly you want to put in, and conciseness. So it should not be you're writing 2-3 pages and repeating the same thing, and there's no like sort of flow or structure to the answer. So these are all the points that are looked at when marking an 8-mark answer. So these are some suggested value points. So what you can do now is go through this and go through your answer and then give yourself marks. Check where you have gained marks and where you lost them. Okay, so we'll move ahead to today's class. Today's class, we'll be looking at 3 different LIs. The first is identify and explain the major genres in literature. The second is explain the properties and functions of autobiographical writing. Third is identify the point of view in a text and explain its use as a literary device. So here we'll still be talking about chapter 1 a bit, and also get an introduction to chapter 2. So let's move ahead. So what does the term genre mean? Genre basically means a style or a category of art, music or literature. So like in this image you're looking at, music itself can be called a genre. Art is a genre, but actually genres are within music and within art and within writing and within dance, within fashion. Genres are basically categories or different styles. So in literature, there are 4 major genres. So the first is poetry. You all know you've read poems, so that's a part of poetry. Second is fiction. Fiction is basically any story or novel, anything that has been made up. It's not real, based on real characters or a real event. It's a made up story. Third is non-fiction, which is based on real characters or real events, real people, sorry. And fourth is drama. Drama is, you all must have seen plays, street plays, read any drama, any plays in your textbooks. So that's the fourth. Drama is usually performed in front of an audience. It's written out for actors to learn their lines and to give out stage directions. So let's look at the different types in detail. So poetry is often considered the oldest form of literature. So writing earlier was not invented. People used to share stories orally. And when you're sharing orally, it's always easier to remember when you remember the rhyme, or there's something that you can sing it out rather than remembering, in a very simple form or simple structure. So poetry was easy to remember. And so oral stories were commonly put into some sort of poetic form to make them easier to remember and recite. Poetry today is usually written down, but is still sometimes performed. Poems are heavy in imagery and metaphor. Metaphor is something that you've just recently worked on, and are often made up of fragments and phrases rather than complete grammatically correct sentences. Poetry is nearly always written in stanzas and lines, creating a unique look on the page. If we move on to fiction, fiction as compared to poetry is written in complete sentences and organized in paragraphs. Instead of focusing on sound, which is what poetry does, fiction tends to focus more on the plot and the characters. So any novel or short story falls into this category. An example is the story that we just read is A Letter to God. That's a work of fiction. Another type is non-fiction. So poetry, fiction, and drama are all texts that feature events and characters that have been made up by the author. Some genres of non-fiction include histories, textbooks, travel books, newspapers, self-help books. So these are all based on real life, either people or events or things that have happened, experiences. So if we like your textbook, that's non-fiction. It's not a made-up thing. Your SST textbook would not be a made-up thing. Your mathematics textbook would not be a made-up thing in terms of like characters or stories. These are all things that are used in the real world and based on real events or the real character, real people, and real things that are happening around us. So the next genre is drama. Any text meant to be performed rather than read can be considered a drama. In layman's terms, dramas are usually called plays. When written down, the bulk of a drama is dialogue. So drama is mostly dialogue because it's supposed to be performed. So one character says something, another says something. There's no description that is being shared. With it has directions on the stage, as in, okay, what is a particular character supposed to do? What sort of action a particular character is supposed to take? What does the stage look like that? Now let's move ahead. So these are the four different literary genre, the major ones. We'll go a little bit deeper into non-fiction because our second chapter that is coming up, that is part of the non-fiction genre. So in non-fiction, let's talk about biography. A biography is a detailed description of a person's life. It involves more than just the basic facts like education, work, relationships, and death. It portrays a person's experience of these life events. So, biographical works are usually non-fiction, but fiction can also be used to portray a person's life. So, sometimes what happens is a person is taken up, as to be a part of a book or a movie, and then some things are made up about that person's life. So sometimes that happens as well. So there are some biographical films that have come up. For example, Mary Kom. So she's a pretty well-known athlete. She's a boxing champion. So that's a example of a biographical film. Biography is actually a written work when someone writes about somebody's life. Let's move on to autobiography. So, an autobiography is a form of narration written by a writer about his or her own life. Auto means self, right? So, an autobiography is the written account of someone about their own life. So, this is the cover page of the book by Nelson Mandela. So, he has written an autobiography. and he has titled it Long Walk to Freedom. So Nelson Mandela's autobiography is so a part of his autobiography is what we will be studying about next for chapter 2. We'll not be reading his whole autobiography. That's a pretty big book because he's had a long life or a lot of experiences. We'll just be reading a part of his autobiography. Another example given here, this is actually written in Gujarati, so I don't know if you can understand. But this is Mahatma Gandhi's autobiography. It has obviously been translated into many languages, and in English, it is called My Experiments with Truth. That is the title of Mahatma Gandhi's autobiography. So that is actually a really important book. Many people around the world, have read it, been influenced by it, and I myself read it, and it's a really great book to just learn a lot about our history, and second about just how we can improve ourselves, how we can look at the world, the different perspectives that are out there, and just try to be a better human being. So this is also a really great autobiography which Gandhiji has written about his life, and he has titled it as My Experiments with Truth. So let's think now. Have you read any biographies or autobiographies? Did reading or watching these help or affect you in any way? Okay, now think and write. So think about this and also write in your notebooks which person's biography or autobiography would you like to read now, and why? Why do you think biographies and autobiographies are written? So just think about these two questions and note down your answer. If you need some more time, please pause and continue your work. Otherwise, let's move ahead. So now we'll be moving on to our next LI, which is learning more about point of view. So every story is told using a point of view. The point of view is basically who is telling the story or narrating the written piece. So while reading a fiction or non-fiction book, readers see and experience the events and feelings about the characters through a certain point of view. A writer may narrate the story from his or her point of view or from a character's point of view. So if you see in the picture here, if like as a writer, I chose someone for this same story, someone in the big crowd over there to be the person to have the point of through whose point of view I will be writing about this particular situation. So if I'm part of the crowd, I'll be like, oh, I'm feeling like there's a lot of people around me. I can't see everyone is sort of jostling around. I can only see the king up there, and maybe it's really hot because of all these people. It's too loud because everyone's talking at the same time. So that will be my experience when I'm down there at the crowd. If I'm up there, I'm talking from the looking at from the king's point of view, then I'm feeling like, oh, there's a lot of wind here, it's so pleasant, and I can actually see everyone. I'm able to address each person. I'm feeling like he's not feeling as crowded as someone who would be in the crowd and talking from their point of view. So the same story could have different points of view, and as readers we would experience two very different things. So that is why it is really important to know and understand from whose point of view that story is being told. A third point of view, like I told you, okay, there is a point of view of someone from the crowd, there's a point of view of someone from the as the king. The third point of view is right now how we are looking at this situation, where we are seeing everything as an outsider. So that is also a kind of point of view that we can take, which we are taking right now. So let's look at the different types of POVs. So the three types are first person point of view, second person point of view, and third person point of view. The most common are first person and third person point of view. So today we will only be learning about these two. The second person point of view is not that important. So what you'll do now is you'll think, so you've studied first person pronoun, second person pronoun, third person pronoun, the personal pronouns. Are you able to remember them? And based on what you know about the different types of pronouns, can you guess what first person and third person point of view would mean? Okay, moving ahead. First person point of view, you can easily identify the first person point of view by the use of I, me, and myself in the narrative. So while you're reading the story or the piece, there's a lot of I, me, and myself that is being used as the narration of the stories or the event or the piece is happening. So in fiction, the first person narrator relates the story as it's happening or retells a story that happened in the past. In non-fiction, the writer uses the first person to talk about their own experiences. This point of view is normally used to convey a personal story where the narrator is also the protagonist or main character of the story. However, the first person can also be a secondary character within the story. So, these are the three types of the first person narrators in fiction. The protagonist. So he or she is the main character in the story. The protagonist shares what happens to them firsthand along with commentary. Then there's the secondary character. Maybe the first person point of view is from the secondary character. So this character may not be who the story is about. So they may not be the main character, but they can relate their experiences within the context of the story, and they usually have a relationship with the protagonist. And the third is the observer. So this type of narrator witnesses the story but has limited or no participation in the story. So they're actually not really in the middle of the things, the actions, everything. They're just looking at it from afar. So the first person observer is closely related to third person limited. So third person limited is something that we'll talk about later on. So if we now look at non-fiction, uh, we just talked about autobiographies. Of course, there are other pieces of nonfiction which also use the first person point of view. But since we're going into detail for autobiographies, they're also written in the first person point of view. So these books share experiences, feelings, and memories of the writers who wrote the autobiographies. Now let's move on to the next, the third person point of view. The third person POV uses he, she, it, and they personal pronouns. It is a very common method of narration. So, third person is basically the example is a letter to God, where it's not one person who's talking about their experiences, it's just the writer writing about the whole story. So, this is also divided into two. One is where it's omniscient. So third person omniscient is where there is no bias. It's not about one particular person who the author is talking more about. Where only that main character or particular character's life or experiences are focused on. the whole story is focused on, all characters are focused on, everything that is happening is being shown to us. So that if you see the meaning of omniscient, it means knowing everything. It means that as readers, we are everywhere, we know everything, we can see everything. The other one is limited. So when we have third person limited, it's not like a first person narrative that that person is speaking, but actually the writer is mainly talking about that person's internal feelings and what experiences that person is going through. So the main character usually, there are many other characters in that story, but we are mainly with this character only. So if we see a letter to God, that is third person omniscient. We see first Lencho and what is happening, in his life, and then we look at what the postmaster thinks also, and what he does and why he does what he does. If it was third person limited, then we would only focus on Lencho. We will go stay with Lencho when he everything like the hailstorm comes. We'll stay with Lencho till he comes to the post office. He writes. We'll stay with Lencho when he goes back home, and we'll not know about what the postmaster did. We'll not know what happened with what the post office employees were doing for Lencho. So all of this we will not know if we are only doing for third person limited. So even if even though the author will write in a with using third personal pronouns, we will still have a limited knowledge of the story. But that is not the case in A Letter to God. There we know everything that is happening with all the different characters. So now we have kind of completed all our three LIs. We have looked at, first we did a bit of homework discussion. Then we looked deeper into genres. We looked at the four major genres, then deeper into non-fiction, where we talked specifically about biographies and autobiographies. And then we've gotten a good overview of what are the different points of view in texts. So this is all we will be doing for today. And now we'll move on to homework. So for homework, you need to watch the different links that have been provided below in the description box. So these links will help you get a good idea about apartheid and Nelson Mandela. So this is the chapter that we'll be reading tomorrow onwards. So it's good for us to get a good understanding of his life and the kind of circumstances Nelson Mandela grew up in and lived in a little bit beforehand, before we go more in detail into a small part of his autobiography. Second is read page 16 and do the activity on page 17 in First Flight, which is also in chapter 2, which is the Nelson Mandela piece. And please complete both of these things before tomorrow's class, because it's really important that you finish it before the class so that you get a better understanding of what is happening in the class.